Hey guys, back. Bryant coming to you from the Rock Life Studios, Monticello, Kentucky. Dan Carter is back with us from Alexander City, Alabama. What's up, buddy?
What's happening?
Hey, episode 59 of Out the Top. This is going to be part two of our series, The Business of Rock Bouncing. We've got a very special guest on today, and we're going to get him on in a few minutes. So, not the normal today, veering off course just a little bit, but we've got Mr. Matt Myrick coming on from Busted Knuckle, Off-Road Films, Empire, Worldwide. I don't know what you call it now.
International.
International, yeah. So they got he's got a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to get to hear about some of that. What how it got started and how it going, how's it going, and buggy building and all that good jazz. So,
Right.
is there anything you really want uh, to get out of him during this episode?
Man, I tell you, like, I've got a million questions, but when I'm put on the spot, probably the stupid ones will come out. But I love these episodes so much because it goes in depth. And that's why I'm always excited to interview people because we try to get, um, okay, so everybody's got their own image and um, character setup of each person in their mind. So everybody is completely different in everybody else's mind. So your version of Matt may be totally different than my version of Matt. And everybody else's version of Matt, they see him out recording on the hill. They may have talked to him, they may have never talked to him, but I like to dig deep and see like what got you into this. Like where did your off road career start? Um, some people may know that, some people don't. I think the majority don't, and that's why I love these episodes so much because we can dig into that.
Yeah, I think this will be our first episode of the Business of Rock Bouncing. We really didn't get to know Matt as a person too well. We didn't get to dig into him and his racing.
Right.
That was more of an educational course, a helper episode. What can you do? This is going to be some of that maybe, but we're just going to hear
Yeah.
mostly about how and why that empire has became what it is.
Right.
From one of the OGs, I guess you could say of what we do. I mean, just plain and
Right.
simple. So, yeah, guys, hang on. It's going to be a good episode. We'll get him on. Matt Meyer coming up on the Business of Rock Bouncing. All right, guys. I told you we got Mr. Busted Knuckle himself in the house. What's up, Matt?
What's happened?
Man, it's we've been trying to do this episode for I don't know 2 months now, and we finally caved, guys. We were trying to get this done on location somewhere, and we couldn't get it done, and so we just caved, and we're just doing this. But hey, we got to do what we got to do. I want to get right into it, and I want to go. Let's do this. Um, let's give a little backstory. Like, where are you from? What everybody knows you from Busted Knuckle. What was life before Busted Knuckle?
Right. I got into the whole off-roading thing early on. I mean, growing up, going on hunting trips, stuff like that, kind of got me into four-wheel drive stuff and four-wheelers growing up, things like that. And I got to college and started getting heavy into like rock crawling and things like that. And I had a Toyota Tacoma or whatever that I was wheeling in, and ended up like pretty much destroying the suspension and had to figure out how to solid axle swap it and do a bunch of stuff building it. And then at that point, DVDs were a big thing, which for the younger folks listening or watching, those are the shiny things that they put movies on.
It's what we shoot at now.
Right. And so we would always get together, after wheeling or whatever, and we'd watch, DVDs and stuff like that of people wheeling. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. I had a project in college where we had to do a video project. And so I was like, this is neat. I can figure this out. And so I figured out how to edit. I made a DVD. And then, the rest is kind of history. People started asking to buy copies of it. People didn't really know. It wasn't mainstream. I don't know if it is now, but rock crawling was just like no one knew what it was, or while we were tearing our stuff up on the weekends. And then, basically working all week to put them back together and then do it all again. So that's what kind of got me into it. And then I found RockBouncers at some point, going to Gray Rock and the old school places wheeling the country back in the day before racing ever was a thing. Started videoing those guys, and that kind of really shot everything up. I started making DVDs of them. That's where I had like the Rock Rod series, and eventually the racing came through. Was SRS was like the first people to like get them together in one place, and I started racing, and so I followed that around and videoed that and made a DVD of it and started putting stuff on YouTube to try to promote people buying DVDs, and then eventually the stuff I was putting on YouTube was doing better than selling DVDs, so I eventually just put it all in there, and here we are.
Well, I'd kind of wondered about that. I come along late in the game compared to you all, and I seen the DVDs, and I'm like, why is Matt making DVDs? Like I was right at the tail end of when they were going away and everything was going digital, and I was like, why has he got DVDs? See, I never realized that was. I never realized. I guess that came first. Now Dan was talking about earlier. Me and him was talking a little bit, and he said he had actually met you at some event somewhere.
Back in the day. So we probably go way back further than what you would imagine. Um, but you and I met at in Auburn at the Great American Park,
Okay.
and I was telling Bryant, I was like, man, that's I don't want to throw a number out there, but I was like, shit, that's probably been like 20 years ago.
At least it's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was.
yeah,
He can probably blame me. I guess that's. I don't know if it became a park again, but I basically showed up at a mud park one day and told the owner to hop in the truck. And me and my buddies went and like showed him like that we like to hill climb, and
right.
we found some rocks on the property, and he just kind of went gung ho from there and started cutting trails and building things out of concrete, and like he kind of went a little overboard. I think we got him fired up.
Yeah, we were talking. I think it was like the Ledge of Faith or something like that.
Yeah.
That then I was trying to explain it to Bryant, and I was like, you could almost imagine if you took a golf course and tried to make a bikini bottom out of it. And I was like, that's as close as I can get by explaining you what this park was. And that's where everybody would go wheeling. That was the first like legal place to actually go that I remember that we could go have a good time, cut up, and all of it was man-made obstacles.
Right.
Dan, all you were missing was Busted Knuckle filming you in the Rhino. Is there any archival footage of that anywhere?
Oh, there's stuff from Great American Park on YouTube and on at least one of the DVDs, but mostly everything's on YouTube. And then all the DVDs are also on like iTunes and all that stuff, so you can download it and watch them. All that
That's
old
cool.
old stuff. But I started out videoing with like a little Sony Discman deal that had like a little mini CD in it, and those things were like notorious for like just erasing themselves. And so there's so much stuff that I went out there and video and just ended up either not
Oh,
doing anything with or just got erased.
right.
So
But
when
things
when
have come
did
a long way.
when was the transition from hard copy to like the digital?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, it's been probably like 2012 or 13 or something like that.
So
Not long after.
relatively, I mean, pretty recent, I guess, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 10 years ago.
It's
Yeah.
longer than that now. Um, but yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I was late. I don't know. I don't even. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't even know how I got into um, the rock bouncing. I just showed up one day at a place, and here I am. But yeah, we were talking about that. Like, how do you get into? Um, so like you do the videos, and we dabble in it just more or less for something to do. It's a reason for me to get closer to the action. But like, if you had to give a tip to somebody starting a YouTube channel, like not even off road, just a channel, any channel, what would be your one piece of prize advice?
It better be about something you're passionate about, or else you'll end up like everybody else that's ever started one trying to make money at it and quit. So,
Right.
I mean, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would still want to be out there. I might be in cooler vehicles, or more vehicles. But I mean, if I won the lottery, I would still want to go out there and video. It's just cool. It's cool to like tell a story, like the untold story of people that are out there doing what we do. And I think it's like a really cool motorsport that doesn't get enough attention because you can go to the circle track or the drag strip stuff like that, and it is just nothing like the off road community. It's nothing like
Right.
Ultra Four, Rock Bouncing, stuff like that, where people like take parts off of their vehicle and give it to you so that you can compete against them. It's pretty wild.
Right.
Yeah, that would be me. For me, and that's what I've told. I've got a couple friends that are trying to build, small channels, trying to get started, and I keep telling them like, listen, if you don't love it, you better not waste a whole lot of time on it. I said, because you will burn yourself out if it doesn't go immediately. Like
Right.
it's so easy to sit there and think. You see some of these channels pop up, and somebody will post one video, and they'll have 20,000 subscribers overnight. And then you see other channels that have got hundreds of videos, and they're still just struggling. They can't find their way. And burnout, I figure, could happen on that like real quick. But as long as you're doing what you love to do, anyways,
Right.
what I've always told Dan, I said, if we don't make any money at this, that's fine. We have been documenting, for me, our last couple years pretty heavily. So at the very worst, when I'm old and done with this, my kids can go back and look at this and be like, oh, Dad used to do some cool shit. He was
Right.
there
So
when all the cool stuff was
that's a
going
big
on.
driving factor for me too. I mean, like all the cool things I've done in life, or most of them are documented on YouTube somewhere. I mean,
Right.
I rode a bull at one of the rodeos in Auburn when
Yeah.
I was in college. That's on YouTube. So it's like, I don't know. A lot of it's just, sometimes I'll just make videos just for me, just to have that archive. And sometimes like we bought 103 acres of land earlier this year to build a shop on and have our own little personal place to ride. And I made a video about that, not really expecting it to do that good, and it's got like 300,000 something views. So it's crazy. Like the things that you would least expect to do well view wise will sometimes will blow up.
Yeah.
I think the more personal stuff does better than what people want to think it will do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think people want to see the authentic you. They want to see the behind the scenes stuff. And we talked about that earlier. And it's like you can bust your ass trying to make a cool video and it'll only have like 500 views on it. And then you could record yourself going to the grocery store and it may be viral overnight. It's just crazy how I guess the algorithms work on social media platforms.
Right.
It's been a struggle for us. We've been playing. Of course, I'm the world's worst about editing. Jesus Christ, it takes me forever to get anything out. I don't care. But it was a grind for us to ever get to the level of even getting monetized at all. Now if we make $1, yay! I've got a little gas money, maybe. Bought some cool new shiny vests for the hills, so Knox won't yell at me no more. That come out of the YouTube fund, but for me, like I said, it's not about making money. It's about I'm there doing something we love, anyways. And so, like I said, my friends that are trying to do YouTube stuff, I was like, make sure you're not, especially at the beginning, make sure you're doing stuff you would be doing anyways. Because
Right.
if you go
That's
out
what
and
I
spend
like.
a bunch of effort on something and it flops, you're going to be so discouraged.
Right. That's why I like the podcast. Like it's something that somebody should have done all along, and then someone finally did it. So like I listen to every episode just because it's entertaining because it's people talking about the world that I'm in.
Right.
A lot of the behind the scenes stuff that we were always talking about on the hill, and then end up talking about on here is pretty funny. And then it's real funny when you start bringing in parks and some of the drama and some of that stuff is
Listen,
pretty
it all
interesting.
needs talked about. We're glad we can serve a purpose. Um, so out of all the YouTube stuff that you've done, I'm not even going to attempt to ask you how many races you've been to or different trips you've taken, but what would be like your favorite? What's probably the favorite video of yours that you've shot?
Um, I don't know that I'll ever be able to top. There was a time where a bunch of buggies got shipped to Puerto Rico on a boat, and we went over there, and it was me, Jake Berkey, and Travis Lovett, and we got treated like we were rock stars in Puerto Rico, and it was one of those things that I don't think I'll ever be able to top. But there's like 2 episodes of that on YouTube from that trip, and it was just like when we were going to the local news station, and like they're like main people. We're talking to them on television. Like it was wild. All for us to come out there and race, and then me come out there and video and stuff. It was pretty neat. That's probably, I don't know if I'll ever top that one. That was quite the experience.
I remember that. Was there? Oh, what was the place's name that you all went to? God, I can't remember it now. But I remember when all that happened.
Yeah, Waldy's Off Road. Like,
there we go.
He helped kind of put it all together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the name I was thinking. I knew it started with a W, but I didn't want to say it wrong.
We hung out with him. He had a Hemi swap JK that I drove around. He ended up riding with Bobby Tanner and breaking his tailbone. Ooh. I mean, we went fishing, we went kayaking, we did all kinds of stuff. It was wild. So the whole time we kept thinking, at some point the police are going to get involved, and and they just kept waving, and we just kept, when we were driving rock bouncers down the street, like they had this giant van or truck that had these huge speakers on it. They were like playing like an advertisement for the event the whole time. We were just driving around town. It was wild. It didn't make any sense, but it was like I said, I don't think I'll ever top it.
I would like to see I'd like to see a group of guys get together, and the Icelanders came over here for several years. I'd like to see a group of guys get together and go over there and do some of their stuff. I think that would be cool.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine Timmy's 100 shots on paddle tires over there?
Dude.
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
That would be.
If they put it together, I'll be there. I've been to Iceland once I think. So Iceland, Norway. So I still like to go to Iceland for they have one and where they skim like down a river. Mm-hmm. So it's a long distance. I've just been to one there where they had like a little short pond or whatever, but the one where they do the long distance would be cool to see in person.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to get those guys back over here at some point. But yeah, I would definitely like to see us, and it's been talked about. I don't know how close how far down the channel it went, but it's been talked about us going.
Nightmare.
Yeah, it would be. It's one of those things, just like what we was talking about. You gotta love it. If you don't love it, it ain't worth it.
Just bring plenty of food, because the food in Iceland not so great. But like we went all the way around the country, and then like there's one main city, Reykjavik, and they had like a KFC. They don't have McDonald's because they won't serve lamb or something like that. But and a Subway, I think they had there, and we were just like so happy to have real food.
Oh, Subway.
When we go back to town.
As long as we got a Subway, we're good.
Right.
What was your when you got in? I mean, you got in obviously because you're a fan of the sport. Did you ever have like a favorite driver, like somebody that you like really liked watching run?
There's been a few. When I first started, I started going to a lot of Weed Rock events, and there was one in Dayton, Tennessee, and that's when I like started seeing Wes Keene for the first few times. I think I'd probably seen him at Grey Rock too, but he would show up at that event, and there's all these professional rock crawling guys, and Wes would show up in either his brother's buggy, his, or something that someone let him borrow, and a lot of times he'd win the event, and so that was fun to watch. But there's only a couple people that ever like make me nervous standing on the side of the hill, and one of those is Bobby Tanner, and the other one is Dale Larson, and I miss watching them on the hills.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, I wish I'd like to see him come out and visit anyways.
Oh yeah.
I never was around for any of Dale's, but I do remember seeing the videos, and I think the FJ is still around.
Yeah, he had a full chassis that he was putting together, and I want to say they had it running and everything. I just don't know. I don't know if it ever went anywhere. Like he like ripped the motor out of it and put in a pontoon boat or something.
Oh no, we can't be having that. So what about? Let's get into. Let's see what was next. How did the buggy building, the Busted Knuckle off road, How did that come
So
about?
so I met Jake Berkey. We were at Golden Mountain for an event, which they
Mm,
just opened back up.
yeah, that's my
And
local
he,
park.
yeah, we're out to we're at the Bounty Hill, and a couple guys have tried it or whatever. And here comes this guy in a fairly well built, CJ7 or whatever. And it was Jake, and he goes and tries the hill, rolls down right by me. I'm sitting there with the camera, and then at that point they didn't have helmets on. They decided to put helmets on again, or helmets on, and then hit it again, and then he rolls back down again. And so we got to talking. He was doing construction management, which was pretty much what I went to school for and was doing. I think still at the time, and hating it. And I think he was kind of in the same situation. So eventually, we kind of became friends. He started doing some tech videos because tech videos were beginning to be a big thing on YouTube. And so he
Hmm.
started like Rock Rod's Tech Tips, was basically like rock bouncers, how to design, build, stuff like that, tips and tricks with them. And that started going really well. Kind of was positioning Jake as kind of like a guru in that. That's when he started racing a little bit more. So he started selling parts on the side to try to fund his racing, and then eventually got to the point where we talked it out, and he decided to bring the Berkey racing thing under the Busted Knuckle off road deal, and kind of went from there. He started out just wanting to sell parts, and a guy from Italy called him numerous times. And the funny thing is, Jake thought it was spam, thought it was just like some random person, that this is never going to lead to anything. But it actually ended up being our first turnkey customer. And like Jake, we never expected to like build buggies for anybody. But that guy he was adamant, didn't care how much it costs. He wanted Jake Berkey to build him a rock bouncer. And so that's kind of how that got started. And
That's
we
wild.
actually built that one for him, turnkey, all put together, and then we shipped it to Italy in pieces. So we actually broke it down to where it was like motor in the chassis and like axles weren't attached or anything. So it would be parts, and it was cheaper taxes for him. And so he flew all of us out there. We went over there and put it together for him, and then hung out in Italy for like a week. So that was pretty neat stuff.
So
And
I
then we
remember
eventually
that. I
broke it
didn't
up.
realize that was Buggy One.
That was buggy number one. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, that was buggy number one. The old chassis. Everything's been updated a lot since then. But then we built Gold Rush, Bad Influence, Tantrum, a couple like really full custom, like really crazy buggies. People didn't care how much they were going to spend on them. They wanted the baddest thing they could, 15, 1600 horsepower, and just realized that all of that R&D you would put into one machine and build it, build one a year. That not only was the customer was pissed off because of how expensive it was at the end, but they weren't getting the best possible product that they could. I mean, the buggies were badass; they're working great, but when they started going to production stuff, we could do the R&D one time and then make those vehicles better and better and better, and make them way cheaper with a better quality product. And so that's when the production stuff came about. So kind of Polaris model of building off-road buggies. And so that's kind of the rest is history with that. I think we just started, we're on like the 30 something buggy or something like that.
that's awesome.
So should be 13 or 14 this year.
There's we've got one up here in my neck of the woods, the big pink one. I don't know what if they ever named it. It's up here. It's about 20 miles from me. It was in town the other day, just cruising the streets.
That's awesome.
Yeah, somebody said they seen it at the gas station. I have yet to see it out, but somebody did tell me it was at the gas station the other day. So you guys are kind of everywhere. What I was down there. What year was it? What year did y'all start building?
I think we've been doing it for like 5 or 6 years now.
I was down there, and I think you were still in the single digits.
Yeah.
But I was down there, and I think you had 3 or 4 broke out in the shop at that time. Just different frames sitting around, and you guys have added on to the shop probably twice since then.
Yeah, twice. We had the main shop. Then we added addition, and then we had to do another addition after that. And we're kind of out of room at this point, so now we're starting to. I'm gonna get all my personal stuff out of there and put it in my own little shop so I can do my thing. And that's we had the tire ball of it guy come and like help me learn how to do tire balls and stuff correctly and all that good stuff. And heck, we had to I mean, basically, he showed me everything, and then I had to shoot it all after hours, just because I mean it's so loud in there. There's so much stuff going on, forklifts going everywhere. So it's just, it's not what it used to be, but it's still pretty cool, just because there's 20 something people in there working all the time, and it's just a lot going on now.
That's crazy. I would have never thought. I mean, I could have believed that you guys would build buggies and be successful at it and make money. Like, but I would have never dreamed that it would be to where it is now. To where you can get a VIN numbered chassis financed, turnkey, ready to go. Like that's insane to me.
Right. And the best thing is every time they release a new side by side, I mean the new Maverick R Max is like 47 grand for the highest end model, and you're gonna have to put suspension on them, tires and wheels, like. So by the time you do all that, and that's the people, that's our customer, the customer that's been in a Jeep their whole life, and they put it on 1 tons, they've V8 swapped it, they've done all this stuff to their Jeep, and it's still failing them. It's still not doing what they want to do. That's our customer. I mean, they eventually want to kind of take it to the next level. And we just had a guy that's 70 something years old buy a turnkey buggy. So it's
That's
like,
awesome.
just kind of something for everybody. And there was such a bad stigma with rock bouncers for the longest time, because everybody was building them in their backyard, and then you buy something secondhand from somebody and you break something, like it's custom. You have no idea, with our stuff, if you buy one, there's, a warranty on most of the parts. And if you tear something up, we got it on the shelf. We know everything about it. We know, you've been in a bar in the chassis. Like I tacoed the back of the Knucklehead, my 2-seater, and they just cut the tubes out and welded it back together and got it good to go, and got a new owner of it, and he's gonna do some modifications to it and delete all the yellow off of it, and it's gonna be on down the road, and just me and the 4-seater now.
Sweet.
So what do you have a favorite build that you guys have done? I mean, the Italy one can't count. The trip.
Hard. Yeah, right. It's hard to beat Gold Rush, I think, just because it got so much attention. Like that buggy was, and the motor in it, it's just nothing else leaving the line. It was unmistakable. Like, you can confuse certain buggies when you hear them at the bottom of the hill if you can't see the starting gate. Gold Rush is not one of those. You always knew it was it, and the guys at the starting line would pretty much tell him he could go, and then they would just go hold their ears and get out of Dodge, because it was so rowdy. That was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Is that buggy still floating around? Do we know where it's at?
I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if he parted it out or what ended up happening.
That was a bad machine.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Good. You got some of these guys that come from like a drag racing background, and they want to put these crazy motors in there, and then they get whooped by somebody that's got a regular LSX motor with a Whipple on it.
That's right.
A lot of times that stuff just don't. You got to keep them reliable. You don't see DNFing very often.
What do you think? So you all just released a 4-seater, and I seen that there may be some changes or some updates coming to that. So what's the next step for Busted Knuckle off road? Have you all got anything like any top secret stuff that you're working on?
We have another vehicle in the works that's gonna fit another market. Still off road. It's still gonna have the rock bouncer bloodline, but it's gonna be a little different. So that's all I can say at this point.
Oh, I mean, Dan,
Dune buggies.
Dune buggies. No Volkswagens.
The crazy thing is, there's people waiting on sand cars that they're waiting 2 years to get sand cars done. We have a customer that literally took his deposit back from a company and then bought a turnkey from us.
Yeah.
He's gonna put paddle tires on it.
Yeah, I think it worked.
We've had our rounds with fabricators, so we know how that guy feels. We had to take a deposit or two back too. But yeah, man, I'm glad you guys are really rolling down there. I want to say, I'm thinking back now, I think Gold Rush was in the shop being built when I was down there. I'm trying to remember for some reason, but I feel like it was. Um,
Right. It was slow go in the beginning because, like I said, we were doing one or two custom builds a year. So we the
yeah.
first couple of years we weren't moving real fast.
Um, what? Oh man. Okay, so we kind of touched on the YouTube stuff. We've touched on the buggy building. Let's go back, and at one point there was a Busted Knuckle Off-Road Park.
Right. So I had a full time editor at one point, and I was a good friend. He was actually my neighbor in college. His name was Carter, and Carter had some family land, and I would stop. It was his farm, and I would stop there on the way to some events because it was kind of in between, like here, Wind Rock, stuff like that. And they were getting ready to sell it, and I went by there one day, and I was like, man, this will make an amazing off road park. And so pretty much the deal was, it was his family's land, and he was like, all right, we got 2 years. If we can turn this into an off road park and it works, then we can continue on, we buy it, and do the whole deal. And somewhere along the line, it got to be just a bad business model because you just weren't going to be able to you weren't able to pay off the land with with what you're going to charge. People didn't take care of the land, so like I understand if you got a drink that falls out of your rig or whatever, but when you've tossed a beer can 20 feet into the woods on purpose, stuff like that just kind of gets to you. So that was kind of the end of the off-road park. So eventually just got sold instead of trying to buy it. If I had the money at the time, I'd have bought it because that place is amazing. But just one of those things. I've people look at me and think I'm successful and everything, but I'm gonna tell you I've failed as many times as I've succeeded. So I just haven't given up, and I've tried a bunch of stuff.
Hey, that's the main thing. You always got to get back up.
Right.
Dan, did you ever? I never was at the park. Did you ever get to go to that race?
Yeah. So I went. We had a bounty race there one year, and that was the year that I blew my engine up, like going to the hill, like it was making a racket, and I thought it was. We just had to put new clutches on it, but pulled right out of the parking area, headed to the hill, and it just locked up. So that was about as much as I saw of the park at that time. And then um, there was an RBD there one year, and we went, and I think my engine may still have been blown up. I don't remember what we were doing, but I think we took that may have been the old Rhino. We took it out up there, and that thing beat us to death. But we rode just as much as we could that weekend. Had a ball.
Yeah, I was really hoping that place would go. I knew kind of heard through the grapevine kind of the arrangement of the deal, and I think everybody was kind of waiting to see what really happened, how it was gonna, if it was going to be able to stay a park. I never did get to go, but I was really hoping that it would because no doubt, dude, you guys would have made that a killer place if at all possible. Because I know you did put in a lot of work.
Oh yeah, we spent a long time cutting trails there, and that was if if money was no option and I won the lottery and I could do whatever I wanted, I would just buy land and cut trails, and that's I don't know that was probably some of the best times as far as just going out there and you're exploring 600 acres of land, and then you find something like the waterfall. You're just walking up a ravine and you find the waterfall, which ends up being like one of the better trails on the property. So that kind of stuff's just really fun to me. And part of the reason why I ended up buying that 103 acres that's down here close to the shop, so I can build some trails and have somewhere like that I can bring people out and show them around, have a good time, stuff like that. It'll never be open to the public, but it'll I plan on eventually, if I got enough trails to where somebody can have a good weekend there, that I'll do like kind of like a guided ride deal, something like that, or maybe even make it where people can come in and drive rock bouncers, have a little rock bouncer experience.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be neat. We've got probably 150 to. We've probably got around 150 usable acres here. That's our property, and then we've got some of it's shared with the neighbors, but they don't care for us riding. We've got some really cool stuff here local to our house. I've got an old Toyota pickup. Never been on a trailer. Never been off the property. Everybody's like, why don't you take your rig here to ride? Like, why would I?
Right.
Like, I've got Mecca the Holy Grail here in the backyard. Like, you guys come to me,
Right.
and Dan's been there and seen some of it, and it's in a rock crawler. You know, the kind
It's a
of
good time.
it's a pretty good time. You can cover it all in 15 minutes if you're in a hurry, in a side by side or something like that, or you can go out there and spend all day. So yeah, having your own little sanctuary like that would be cool. I definitely wouldn't dare open that to the public. Keep that to yourself.
Right.
Do little invited rides here and there and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I think that's cool too, is like to have those places like that that are invite only, that, you know, people have some property. There's some places like that that have really cool stuff.
Mhm.
You know, it's little top secret spots. I think that's cool. And something about traveling to all the races and stuff is fun, and I enjoy it. But at some point, I got to make sure that I have somewhere that I can make content without doing as much traveling. So
Right.
that's kind of part of the idea behind it too.
It that's something we need to get into. I never thought about that. I could go over here to the house and shoot some videos. Um,
Well, and like you said, you have more control over it, because I know that you guys used to do a lot at Stony, you do a lot at Hawk Pride, and during the week those parks, there's not a lot going on, but occasionally when you do go during the week, you do run into a crowd from time to time, and that. We've done tire tests at Hawk Pride before, and you would go on a day that you wouldn't think anybody would be there, and next thing you know, you've got like 10 guys standing around, kind of hanging out, watching stuff go down. So,
Uh,
yeah, I'm like you. I think if you had somewhere you kind of out of public view to hang out and test some stuff and get some footage would be cool.
so speaking of footage, when is the new sticky tire shootout coming? Jesus Christ, the world is about to come unglued.
it's all Uptime, man. MRT, they had some tires they were waiting on, and he's been holding us up for probably about a month now. They finally came in, but now it's show season. So, you know, Ricky and Uptime are pretty big involvement when it comes to
Yeah.
that video shoot. And so now they're every weekend they got somewhere they got to be, you know, either this side of the country or the other side of the country. And so we're trying to work out a weekday where we can make it happen and get it done, because we got some good tires in this one. The crazy thing is, this year everybody's jumped on the sticky tire bandwagon, so I could probably put out two. We could probably take
Yeah.
the winner or the top two and compete against the other 5 tires that have come out,
Yeah.
you know, in the last month or so.
Yeah, the market the UTV market is just unreal. Do you guys at Busted Knuckle? No, we'll back up just a little bit. I know you sell like full size stuff. Do y'all ever dabble with the UTV parts and accessories and stuff like that? If anybody wants to come find something, or no?
Not much. I mean, we used to do a little bit of that, but we really just started focusing on, you know, the buggies and stuff, just because, you know, we manufacture most of our own parts now, and so it's one of those things. Everybody seems to be in the side by side part
Dude,
game,
it's
which,
tough.
you know, nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of business out there, but we just try to focus on our little niche.
You're better off. So let's do. What about Man, I'm trying to think here. Let's go back to YouTube for a minute. What is, we've kind of talked about your maybe your favorite trip or favorite video. Is there any one run throughout the years, like any one run, race run, we'll put it that way, that stands out above everything else?
Probably like one of the more recent would probably be, and this is a UTV, which is crazy. DC jumping that waterfall at Blue Holler is just like, the way the crowd erupted when he did that was one of those things that that'd be a hard moment to top, because that was wild. After RockBouncers had to try to jump it, he had like a bent trailing arm or radius rod or something. The thing wasn't even 100%, and he still backed up and sent it and climbed
Yeah.
it. It's one of those things that just didn't make any sense.
There's lots of good videos from that day. Dan spent most of the day on his lid, best I remember. Well, I mean, not to pick on you, Dan, but I think everybody did.
Hey, that's how it be sometimes.
There was several rigs that day that were probably should have been thrown in the trash when they left.
Yeah.
Bent frames and broken engine mounts, and I raced there on Friday and went home, and I've kicked myself in the butt ever since then for not staying. Because I said, this ain't going to be no show on Saturday. Ain't nobody going up this. Ain't nobody going to be able to do none of this. It's like, I'm going to the house. And, yeah, that's one I wished I'd have got to stay and watch.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes us special and what makes the sport special is what kind of crazy person can sit there after watching driver after driver fail on a climb and yard sale their stuff and go, if I hit this just right, I think I can make it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that. If that's not our sport in a nutshell, I don't know. I don't know what is, and that's what makes
Yeah.
it entertaining to watch.
And then the crowd sitting there thinking too, it's like we've seen 10 of these guys total their rigs out. What actually makes you think that the next guy's not going to do the same? And then the DC thing happened.
Right.
It's funny because, and I've said it to you, Matt, on the hills. Like, is anybody going to climb this? And you've said to me a couple times, like, he's like, I always think they're not going to, and then somebody proves me wrong. And me and Dan have talked about that on here. Like, you look at the hills, I look at them. Of course, I've always been the world's worst at picking lines anyways. But I look at them and I go, nope, no way, not happening. And then somebody always makes it look like a highway.
Right.
I don't know if that's a testament to the machines or the drivers or the insane horsepower they're throwing down now or what. So how are you enjoying being back behind the wheel?
It's been a struggle at times, but I got back into it because I enjoy it, and it's a rush that's just hard. It's hard to beat that rush when you're sitting on that starting line and they tell you go. Like it's just you and that machine for the next 60 to 90 seconds, and you're just giving it everything you got, and it's a rush. You get done and you're just sitting there shaking, and I don't know. It's just hard to beat. I've been trying to, bought someone else's old rig and kind of completely redid it. Just been kind of figuring it out all season, but I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm a little more competitive now. Instead of getting gapped by 10 seconds by the leaders, now I've cut that in about half. So I'm starting to make some leeway. I'm still trying to get on that podium this year. That's still my goal. So maybe we'll be able to hold together this weekend at Rush Springs. I got 2 new belts, so hopefully I only need one of them.
The good thing about Rush Springs is you'll get to stretch your legs a little bit on a short course.
Oh yeah,
right.
And usually the hills out there they're steep, and I'm not going to say they're not, but they're not as extreme as some of the places that we do go. So the course should be, shouldn't be too bad this weekend. Man, who was it? Was it one of the Caissons that took such a bad roll out there 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was Clay in the UTV Cup. Flipped off the hill and hit a tree, and it pretty much bent I think it was the A-pillar bent pretty bad, and I don't remember if it knocked his arm out of socket or if he hurt it. He hurt his arm.
Broke some ribs or something, I think.
Yeah, that may have been it. Punctured. It was like pretty crazy. Like he went to the hospital, and you would think something like that would scare somebody and slow him down a little bit, but I think he's actually faster now than he was back then.
They've all gotten fast. I had no idea. Being out of this 5 or 6 years and showing up and being like, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get in a competitive vehicle. I think I'll do okay. And man, just watching those guys, it's just wild. And just you think that you have a fast time, and then somehow or another they put 5 seconds on you. It's like,
oh yeah,
where?
Right. Yeah, it's for some of the guys have been running E85 for years. We were always hesitant about it because we were going more for like a longevity of the engine, because you hear a lot of horror stories about E85. But so we'd run 110 and they would just run off and leave us. Like we could not keep up. And so this year we had to bite the bullet and get on the E85 wagon. And we're still so far behind in the playbook, I guess you could say, trying to figure all that out, how that works. Dude, the UTV classes are just so crazy. And talking about the casings, Cody in that Pro XP, he drives that so much better than anything else I've ever seen him wheel.
It's not even long travel. It is normal width, like insane.
I don't know how he does it. What's okay? Let's since we're back into talking racing. What's the closest you've ever come to be getting hit on the hill? Because I know you've been in some shady spots.
Yeah. Probably like Gray Rock back in the days. Probably some of the closest times. I don't know. Rush Springs Ranch last year, Cooper rolled down onto the tree that I was standing behind.
Ooh.
But I mean, I always find a big tree or have a good, like, I'll sit there and like make me a little pathway to get out of Dodge if things get sketchy. And usually, if you see me run, you know, it was time. So, and especially if I put the camera down, then you know I really messed up.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Wes King coming up that Bounty Hill in Oklahoma, that last one where we had the bolted tires and stuff. He closed the distance from the bottom of that hill to where I was standing so fast that I pretty much had to put the camera down and run.
Whew.
But he wasn't anywhere close to getting to me. It was just one of those things like I can't be the reason that someone has to lift or anything. Like I never want a driver to ever have to worry about me or me costing anybody anything. So I always try to make sure that, you know, if it comes down to it, I'll just put the camera down and run if I have to.
Right.
But, you know, I also like getting those shots where, you know, everybody else, every other media person there was at the bottom of the hill because that was a safe spot.
Right.
I wanted to get to the top of the hill because that's the angle I wanted to get. So
listen, I would like to be at the top of the hill with you in some of these. I'm just not climbing the damn thing. I like to be down.
That one.
Huh?
I had to use a rope to get up that one.
That's what I was fixing to say. I remember seeing a lot of the guys looking at the hill using ropes to get up there and look at the hill. And it's like, man, you know it's steep if they're having to use a rope to pull themselves up.
No, I'm out.
That was another one I told him. I said, there ain't no way nobody coming up this hill, bolts or not. And then Wes just waxed it on the first run. Didn't make any sense.
See, that's just I don't get it. Some of these guys just do some crazy things. Dan, I don't know. Dan, what you got?
Man, I was trying to think. You know, we talked it like the whole backstory of like how you got started in this. So let's look in the future. Where do you hope to see Busted Knuckle in the next 5 years?
Well, hopefully I've got some good trails cut on the property and shop all up and done. I've been cutting water line for the last weekend in 90-something degree heat. That's been a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet.
But just that, and hopefully we're gonna hit that. We're almost 800,000 subscribers, I think. So I'd like to hit that million mark and get that plaque from the YouTube. Not that subscribers even matter anymore, but I just always wanted that plaque. So
right.
Hopefully we'll get that, and hopefully the shop continues to grow and come out with more vehicles, more models that, you know, people want, people like, and kind of keep growing it from there. So
yeah,
and really in all of it, just enjoy the ride, have a good time with it, and you know, it's always been neat seeing it grow. And I mean, when we first started going out to King of the Hammers, and the reason I ever quit my day job was I went to King of the Hammers for the first time and saw all that, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to do this full time. It helped when I got back. My manager was like, all right, you either need to, you know, work here or you need to do your side gig, like one or the other. You can do both. And so
yeah,
that made that easy on me. But it's just fun, man. I just really enjoy doing all this stuff, and you know, like I said, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still want to go out there and video and ride and have a good time. So
right. Yeah, for sure. I think that's the main thing. Like you've always said, you've always want to make this be something that you love to do. You don't want it to get old. It's always got to be a passion, and I think that's the way to keep it relevant.
Right.
Yeah, it's for me. We kind of share that. You know, I was slinging parts while I was at my other job, and they kept getting on to me because they're like, "You need to be working," and I'm like,
Right.
First of all, you're not paying me enough.
Yeah.
This over here is paying me enough. When I get done doing this, I'll come help you in a minute. And they're like, no, you're going to have to pick. And I'm like, okay, I just did. Bye. And
Right.
And so we've been doing this. Man, I got started in 16, I think 16, 17, selling parts and whatnot. But man, I've always out of everybody in the sport, and I'll say this, I don't care to say it to you or anybody. Out of everybody in the sport, out of all the names, I guess you could say, and I consider you one of the names of the sport because you've been around and been involved in this since the beginning. When I first started coming around, and I don't even remember why it was or where it was, but and I think it's probably because we were always in the vendor area together because I was always selling parts and you all were selling T-shirts. Uh, but you were one of the first names of the sports to ever talk to me, to ever like introduce yourself and whatnot. And you've always been really good to me and Rock Life. And there's some media members that I have still yet to speak to. You know, they'll throw their hand up as they go by, but I've never actually spoken to them. And I'm like, you know, I always think of you as one of the nicest people in in the sport, in the pits, on the hill. Always been good to us, and we really appreciate that because when we were nobody coming in, didn't know anybody, at least we had, you know, for whatever reason, you were there, you were on our side, and we really appreciate that. You know, when we opened Rock Life, we had Busted Knuckle apparel in the store, had that for quite a while. So you've been a part of our journey too, you know, ever since we've started. And like I said, man, we really appreciate that. And we always like to support those who support the sport. I feel like if everybody can get on the same page and do what they can to keep promoting, dude, it's got to go. It's got to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Our car counts are getting huge, and that is thanks to, you know, the promoters, the drivers, but you know, people like you and some of the other media people who keep pushing this stuff out to the masses. And we need you to get to that 1 million subscribers mark. We got to get you there, buddy.
Right.
For
We're
sure.
close. We're close. Hopefully in the next couple of years we'll get there. So we just gotta keep finding new ways to put out content and see what people want to see and you know keep telling that story and doing fun stuff. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and hopefully with you know having the new shop and all that stuff going on, we can start doing a little more crazy stuff, a little more fun projects and things like that. So we're gonna do some fun stuff coming up, and hopefully gonna get a lot of attention. So
Well, we appreciate you. We thank you for everything you've done for us and for always being good to us. And I'll never forget my first race at Wildcat in 2019 when you posted the UTV video from that day. The Rock Life car was the cover car, and I thought I had made it on the thumbnail. It was the Wonder Bread car. I was like, shit,
yeah,
yes, I made the thumbnail in my very first race on a Busted
Famous.
Knuckle video.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
many people just don't. I just don't understand. Like they'll make their car like all black or like all these just dull colors, and they just you can't make a thumbnail out of that. You know what I mean? Like Nick Reich, like he drives the crap out of his buggy, you know, drives the wheels off of it, but I can't put a black vehicle, you know, in the dark woods on a thumbnail. No one's gonna see it. No one's gonna watch it. So the bright colors really help stuff like that pop. And that's
We got you covered there.
oh yeah. Oh,
We,
you always come with something cool, like you know the themed wraps and stuff like that, and the new car with the new wrap. Like you always went a little extra on that stuff. So, as a media person, I appreciate that.
we got you, buddy.
Hey, we appreciate you covering us. I mean, I remember like after every race, like when we started out, we were nobody, but we would always go home that weekend and look at all you media guys and be like, who got us? Who
Right.
got us? Who got us sucking win?
That's a little bit of a struggle too. It's like you know finding time to edit all that stuff and the cup stuff covering it this year. Like not as many people want to watch the UTV videos, and I don't know why. I mean, I guess I can't expect someone to want to watch that as much as the rock bouncers because they're just not really the same. But I don't know. I'd like to figure out how to make them more entertaining. I mean, because at this point I'm videoing for me, and I'm also videoing for the drivers because you want to be able to. I watch that stuff, almost religiously, watching like comparing the top guys in my run and like where they're making up time, what they were doing differently, and stuff like that. So I watch all that, the in-car stuff, which just looks like I'm being a crazy psychopath in there the whole time. Like I
I'm
think
with
I
you.
need a steering quickener or something. I don't know because I was watching my last one. And it's just like I'm just like doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It
But it's fun to put that stuff out there and see, and see it. And they don't get a crazy amount of views, but still gonna do it so everybody can see their runs.
That's right.
Well, it's I'm really horrible about getting videos out on time, so I'm glad you guys are. But yeah, the Friday stuff, man, I'm glad you guys are starting to push some of that out. I know they don't typically get the coverage that, well, they typically just don't get any. But just anything those guys can get, I'm sure they appreciate it. But yeah, I'm like you. They need to get some color on some of them rigs. Get some wraps put on them. Get them to popping. It's hard to tell. I get confused. There's a couple of them that are blue and black. They look almost the same. And I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, no, that's not them. And then they get just a little bit of mud on them, and then it completely disappears.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we've got some, and we've talked about that on here, about trying to get some of the UTV guys on board with like branding their stuff and getting a little more involved that way. Even if you don't have any sponsors, make it look like something.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like so many people, they struggle at the marketing part of it when that's part of racing. And, most people do this stuff for fun. No one's going to make any money at it unless you're Timmy. But you can take live feed footage, and I don't think Clyde's going to get your video taken down or anything. And you can at least take the live feed footage of your run or whatever and post it on your racing page or something like that. And I've never, if you ever get footage off of one of my videos and it's of your car and it comes up and it has your name on it, like, or your racing page, I'm never going to get that video taken down. Because if you guys aren't sitting there racing, I don't have anything to video. And so, it's a give with that. So anytime anybody needs footage and stuff like that, just take it and put it on your page, and you're good to go. So that way you can advertise for yourself and what you're doing. You put all this work into it. I don't see why most people don't do that.
Man, we appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, Matt, buddy, we'll let you go. Appreciate having you on. Good luck this weekend at Rush Springs. Never been there. Probably won't ever. Too damn far, and I'm too damn lazy. But yeah, give her hell out there. Watch that last jump on that short course. I've seen it about bite a few people.
Whew.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I'm gonna give it all it's got. We'll see. See if maybe it'll hold together this time.
All right,
there you go.
Get that podium this weekend, buddy. Thanks for coming on. You're welcome back anytime. And at some point, we'll get you at an event, and we'll just sit down and do some BS and talk about your race season and all that jazz.
Sounds good.
Right on. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Right, man.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That was Matt Myrick on Out the Top, business of rock bouncing. We really didn't get too far in the weeds as far as like dollars and cents, but you guys kind of got the gist of how it got started and what they're doing and things they've got coming in the works. So I hope you enjoyed that. You heard him say, drivers, if you want footage, go ahead and steal it from him. He don't care. As long as it's your footage, get it, use it, put it out there. Just make sure if you do that, guys, just give him a little credit in the video, as anybody would want.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate having him on, and hopefully towards the end of the year or after the season, we can get him back on and see how we can do a return comeback season recap. Because I think the last year he raced was either 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll catch up with him this winter and see how his season turned out. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Our next episode of the Business of Rock Bouncing is going to be another good one. We're going to try and get it scheduled. And then when we get it scheduled, we'll go ahead and pre-announce who that is, because we need some questions for this person. And when we get that scheduled, we'll make an announcement on that, and that'll be on the Book of Faces and YouTubes and all those places, and we'll try and gather some fan questions for the next guest. We'll let you know when we've got that locked in. This weekend, guys, Rush Springs Ranch. Should be some good racing. Not huge car count, which we kind of talked about last week. But still should be some good racing. Check that out on Rock Racing TV on YouTube or Facebook. Friday at noon, Saturday at 9 a.m. Local time to wherever that is, probably Central. I think it's Central time.
I think it is Central.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, check that out. And, Dan, unless you got something else, buddy, we'll be back next week for our post-race show from Rush Springs.
Right on.
Stay easy, he said.
That's it. Easy.